Yeah, this is Penn Jillette on the Free FM CBS Radio, sitting here in the Vintage Nude Studio with Michael Goudeau and a very special guest. A while ago, we had Phil Plait, the bad astronomer, on to argue with Joe Rogan about landing on the moon. Discuss with Joe Rogan about landing on the moon. And I really thought that Joe didn't have a chance because, you know, he was wrong and stuff. And then Joe came in with this combination, this perfect combination of aggression and humility that seemed to be almost unbeatable. A real kind of honest, looking for the truth coupled with very, very quick thinking and a lot of knowledge. And we didn't feel that the discussion about landing on the moon was over. So now we have Joe Rogan live in the studio.
Well, I hope you got some extra time, because it's not going to be over today either.
Okay.
It's going to go on for years. I'm going to haunt you, Phil.
The last thing Joe Rogan said was, "I'm not done with you, bitch." So he's not done. We have Phil on the phone. We won't put these two in the same room.
Yeah, man. How come you're ducking me, bro? I flew all the way to Vegas.
I don't want to hurt you, Joe.
So I guess since Joe started last time on the phone with explaining his questions about.
Well, what I want to say to anybody who is listening to this, who's like,
and we're starting with Joe again.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm just gonna a disclaimer. I will let you start for sure.
No,
I'm not
go
going to make
ahead.
any points.
I'm ready for you.
All I'm saying, and all I said before is, I am not claiming to be a scientist. I am not claiming to be anybody who's got any secret knowledge. I'm not claiming that I know something you don't. All I'm saying is I'm not afraid of looking ridiculous, and I think a lot of people are. And I think when you look at all this evidence, a lot of people look at it and they go, well, of course we landed on the moon, and they don't want to look any further, and they stop right there. What I'm saying is the more I look at stuff, the more I see inconsistencies. I see all kinds of weird behavior from the astronauts. I see all sorts of weird photographic anomalies. I saw all sorts of weird stuff with radiation. There's a lot of weird stuff. And one of the reasons why I wanted to come on the radio with you is because I wanted to be able to ask someone about these things, because all I'm getting is what I'm getting online. And I know you run a debunking website, right? I mean, Is that what you do for a living?
That would be badastronomy.com for all of you in front of a computer. No, I don't do it for a living, actually. I create educational activities for students. Actually.
Have you ever worked for NASA, or are you employed by them in any way?
Not officially. I worked at Goddard Space Flight Center for a few years, which is a NASA center, but I was a contractor. I worked for a company, not NASA. I've never been a civil servant.
And
Bart Sabrell, one of these big moon hoax guys, he went on the air once and accused me of having a NASA paycheck, which is not true. I've never had a NASA paycheck. And then a couple of years ago, I went back to Goddard after I stopped working there about 5 years ago. A couple of years ago, I went back to give a talk, and they reimbursed me, and I actually had a NASA check with my name on it. I thought, oh, damn, you got me now.
Now, Phil, last time, Joe called up and just kind of said the stuff that was troubling him about the moon landing. Since you're on the phone this time, you're going to go first, which I believe is the harder position that Joe did last time. And just tell us to start out why you think, what the big signs are that we landed on the moon.
Right. This is a funny position to be in because, you know, say, prove that this happened. Well, it's like, how do you do that? How do I prove that you exist? You know, I can't even do that. You're just a voice on the other end. So it's, you know, you have to just sort of say at some point there's overwhelming evidence that this stuff really happened. You know, it'd be silly to deny it at that point. And I think with the moon landings, you're sort of in that category. And that is, we have all the pictures. We have all the people who worked on it. We have all the historical documentation. And what's going to happen is in any project of this magnitude, and I mean this was one of the largest projects ever undertaken. There were, I've heard different estimates, but something like 400,000 people involved with it. And that there are going to be things that you're going to scratch your head over and say, how could this possibly have happened? Typically that stuff just comes into, you know, why did somebody behave this way? Why did that sort of thing happen? In the case of the moon hoax, the people on the other side, if I can say that, they have what they call, you know, the photographs and all that kind of stuff. And we talked about that before. We can get into that again if we want. But the question is then, what is it that I can present? And one of the things is that there is hard physical evidence of this. For example, The astronauts, over the course of 6 missions, brought back 800 pounds of rocks and dust from the moon. And this stuff is really weird. I mean, it's clearly not formed on the Earth. You can go through all the scientific analysis and say, yes, this stuff clearly was formed in a low-gravity, waterless environment. It has all of the telltale signs of having spent time in an atmosphereless, does that even make sense, an airless environment. This stuff's been looked at by scientists from all over the world, and they all look at it and say, yeah, that's from the moon.
All right, can I stop you right there for a second?
Yeah, sure, let's
about
go.
that. First of all, Wernher von Braun went to Antarctica in 1967 in the height of the moon race and collected moon rocks from Antarctica. Isn't that true? Like hundreds of pounds.
I have heard...
There's photographs of him. There's videos of him there. There's moon rocks that they brought back. There's video of them carrying stuff back. He went in 1967, 2 years before Apollo.
I have not seen the documentation for this, and I've looked around, but I haven't.
You haven't seen the photographs of him in Antarctica? You haven't seen? I mean, that's very clear. That's all over the place.
Are they online? I can look that up.
Absolutely. I can't believe you don't know that. You don't. Well, you haven't heard that argument that Wernher von Braun was in Antarctica? Why would he go to Antarctica in the middle of the most heated technological race in human history, and he's at the helm of it for the United States of America, and he's going to Antarctica and he's bringing back rocks? I've
heard this story too, but I've honestly I have not found a lot of stuff about this. And
that's ridiculous. It's all over the internet. It's all over everywhere. It's been documented. I've seen videos. All over the. No, not conspiracy sites. It's all over legitimate sites. I've seen it on a bunch of different sites. It's documented. Wernher von Braun was in Antarctica in 1967, 2 years before Apollo. And he was bringing back rocks.
Okay, then
not only that, he was a Nazi. A huge, evil Nazi war criminal who, by the way, the Simon Wiesenthal Center said would be prosecuted for crimes against humanity if he was alive today, for sure.
He worked for the Nazis. I don't think he was a Nazi. That's a whole
Wernher von Braun ran a rocket factory where they hung the 5 slowest workers a day in front of the rocket factory. There's people that have talked about it. There's guys that have showed their tattoos and discussed it. And seen Wernher von Braun walk by as they were working.
Von Braun.
Just to jump in here, totally separate from any moon hoax site, I just pulled up with a quick search many pictures of Wernher von Braun in Antarctica.
Yeah, it's kind of weird that you would dispute that. I don't understand.
No, I'm not disputing it. As a matter of fact, now that I see one here, there is actually a picture of von Braun in Antarctica on the Marshall Space Flight Center site, which is a NASA site. So it says this photo was made on or about January 7th, 1967. Well, then I have a question for you. If they were to fake the moon landings, and there were some people in there that were going to do this, why would they send von Braun to Antarctica? Why would they take pictures of von Braun? And then why would they say, look, von Braun went to Antarctica? Why even do that? If this is going to be a secret thing, and you're going to go to Antarctica to collect rocks, it doesn't make sense to send your rocket
There's
engineer.
A lot of things that don't make sense, but the fact is he was in Antarctica. He did bring back moon rocks.
They brought back some meteorites
from the moon.
They didn't bring. I don't think they brought back hundreds of pounds.
They brought back hundreds of pounds. If you find it, it's available all over the place.
Okay, well, I'm just going to have. Okay, I'll just grant you that.